Our next speaker is going to be addressing slightly different issues, very much online, to do with strong customer authentication, talking about 3D secure and how really to make that seamless in e-commerce. So please welcome Suzana Kordumova Nikolova, who's technical coordinator from netcetera. Suzana.
Hello from me. My name is Suzana. As I was introduced, I'm a technical lead in developing 3D secure products in netcetera. Today, I will talk about seamless 3D secure e-commerce experience. Now, I just said a lot of words in my long title here, and I will explain them. E-commerce, the buying and selling of goods over the internet, and the transfer of data and money to facilitate those payments. Every time money and data are mentioned, people get a little fragile. They want to know that the payments they are placing are secure enough. And this is where 3D Secure come into play. 3D Secure is a security protocol that solves the online fraud problem with credit cards online. What actually it provides is a strong payer authentication. It proves that the one who is paying is the actual card holder. This security protocol consists of 3 domains, as the 3D name implies. The first domain is the merchant or the acquirer domain. That's the merchant and the bank to which the money are being transferred to. The second one is the issuer domain. This is the issuer of the card being used. And the third one, the interoperability domain. This domain is the infrastructure provided by the schemes to help and support the 3D secure protocol. This 3DS was mentioned several times on this conference. I want to explain in more detail what it is and why you should use it. All of these domains have their corresponding components in the 3D Secure protocol. On the merchant acquirer domain, it's the MPE, or in the new version of 3DS, the 3DS server plus the 3DS SDK. On the issuer domain, we have the access control server, and in the interoperability domain, it's the directory server. netcetera has all these components. Some of them were among the first certified in the world, which is a huge success for us. Let's see now how all these components are interconnected. The 3DS client, which is the merchant mobile application, plus the SDK integrated in it, or a browser, if a browser is starting the transaction. It's communicating with the 3DS server. This server facilitates the communication between the client and the directory server. It sends the data to it. Then the directory server, which is from the interoperability domain, communicates with the access control server, and if the user is required to do an authentication challenge, this server communicates directly with the client. To give a more clear picture of how 3DS works, I will say that these first 2 components belong to the merchant. And here are the domains we were talking about, the issuer domain, the interoperability domain, and the acquirer domain. This is a rough image of what 3DS really is. 3DS was first introduced by Visa, 1999, and this is version 1.0.2. This is the one that most of merchants are using today. It perfectly solved the problem of online fraud. It allowed the merchants, the issuers, acquirers, and card holders to all communicate between each other. in different time zones, different countries, different languages, different currencies, and they still preserved the data they were communicating. It is now a well-established global program, especially in Europe, where Visa said that around 75% of the transactions are actually verified by Visa. As you know, the year I mentioned was 20 years ago, when this 3DS was announced, and that's the time when all the online shopping was done on a computer, and that is why we can say that 3DS 1.0.2 is a browser-based protocol. However, this is how the world looks like now. It was mentioned even by Alan that 40% of the mobile payments on Black Friday were from mobile phone. People are constantly using their phones on the go. It's a very convenient way of using m-commerce, and a lot of transactions are happening over the mobile phone. So, as the world changes, the technology should adapt as well. That is why, in October 2017, EMVCo introduced a new 3DS protocol. This one is called EMV 3DS 2.0. The biggest change this protocol has is that it introduced a mobile 3DS SDK. And all of this is to support the m-commerce to be 3D secure as well. Another important component, important change is that the merchant plugin is now replaced with a new 3DS server component. I mentioned several times about this new 3DS SDK. What it really is, it's a software development kit that is integrated inside a mobile merchant application. It can be either an iOS or Android application. When this SDK is integrated inside of an application, it enables it for 3D secure payments. It's just that easy. This mobile SDK communicates securely with all the other 3DS components. It's very simple to integrate, it's easy to use, and it's PCI ready, which means it supports all the PCI requirements. I explained what 3D secure e-commerce is. Now let's see where this seamless experience comes into the picture. When the user is challenged for an authentication, the mobile SDK shows an integrated challenge process. This means that the UI that is shown to the user is a native UI by the SDK itself. And the important thing is that it can be customized as the merchant application. The users of the SDK can customize the colors, the text fonts, the text sizes, and this challenge process actually looks same as the merchant application. The user will not know the difference. So this entering of OTP and other challenge processes happens natively. Let me tell you a story of when I was paying my the flight ticket for my last vacation. I selected my ticket, I checked out, and I was challenged with an authentication. I was doing all this while holding my phone in one hand and my 2-year-old daughter with another hand. And I managed to do all that, and suddenly I got a challenge process that redirected me to a browser, which was in no way mobile supported. It had small letters, small buttons, and I needed to zoom in order to read what it says. And you all know how zooming in with one hand is almost impossible when you're holding a phone. All of this will be much better in the new EMV 3DS than it was before. Because the native UI is customized by the merchant application, it looks the same, and the merchants can make it with great user experience for the users. It's all in the merchant's hands. Another way to show the challenge process is with HTML, but this is again integrated inside the application. There are no redirects. And the issuers can use this to have a consistent challenge UI across different devices and application. But this is again if the merchant allows it. The merchant now has a full control of the UI and the user experience while using their application. There are several challenge types that are supported by the SDK. The one-time passcode, entering of an OTP, the multi and single selection, and the out-of-band challenge when the authentication can happen in another application, maybe using biometrics as well. And in this case, the issuers can also promote their applications if the authentication happens in their app. I've explained all the benefits that this EMV 3DS offers, but that's not the real magic of this new protocol. The most important thing is that it allows real frictionless flow. Real frictionless flow means that the user can have a 3D secure payment transaction without having additional user input from their side. And this can happen with the new protocol with using the SDK that collects a lot of device data. On iOS, it collects 25. On Android, it's around 150. This is because the platform is much more open. All this data that is collected by the SDK is then sent through all the 3DS components to the ACS, which does the risk analysis. And of course, the more data you have, the better analysis you can do, which means that this frictionless flow will be more often with the new protocol. And also an important thing is to know that all this data is encrypted. As I mentioned before, users don't want to share the data very easily. And with the SDK, it encrypts the data and sends it through the protocol encrypted. Let me show you a video of how users are using the mobile applications. Okay, you all saw this. It's actually a girl walking down the train station. She opens her phone, she selects the ticket, she buys the ticket and enters the train. This is how users are using their mobile applications on the go. They want them to be simple, fast and easy to use. And now with the new EMV 3DS, they can have one additional feature. That is the secure payment. They can have, with the frictionless flow, they can use their apps as they used it before, plus they will be more secure, and the confidence from the user will be much higher. This is the netcetera demo merchant application that we have, and it communicates with all the other components I mentioned that we have in netcetera. It imitates a checkout process where the user enters the data and they click the submit button. After that, they see a processing screen. And all that happens in the background is this. The SDK provides the encrypted data it collected and sends it to the merchant application. The application sends an authentication request with this data to the 3DS server. The 3DS server sends this request to the DS. The DS decrypts the device data and forwards it to the ACS. The ACS does the risk analysis and sends a response back to the DS. The DS forwards the authentication response to the 3DS server. And the 3DS server then forwards the authentication request to the merchant application. There are a lot of things happening in the background, and all the user sees is this. It's that easy. This is the frictionless flow we were talking about. And this is the seamless experience that the new 3D Secure protocol offers. Maybe one of the most important reasons why merchants didn't want to use 3DS before is because the users see this additional authentication step as an obstacle, and they can abandon the transaction. This is why the new 3DS protocol should be used. There are many more frictionless transactions happening, and the abandonment rate will be reduced. There are many benefits of using EMV3DS on every side. The issuer and the bank will build loyalty and trust from the customers. There will be a decrease in the abandonment rate, as I mentioned, and they will nourish their brand loyalty. On the merchant acquirer side, there are also great benefits. There will be the authentication happens inside the merchant app. It looks same as the application. They can do branding of the challenge process, which will make their application much more attractive. And that is why they will have more customer trust and, the most important, increase in sales. On the user and cardholder side, they will get the seamless transaction they want. Additionally, they will get the secure payment, and the user experience while using the merchant application will be much better. This was also mentioned this morning in the keynote that PSD2 requires strong authentication in 2019, by September 2019, and 3DS is at the moment is the only technology that can achieve this. So this means the future is very near. We are already 2019, and we and netcetera are ready for it. We can also help you be ready as well. If you haven't thought of strong authentication and how to be compliant with these requirements, you should start and think about it now. This is me. You can contact me these days on the conference or later via email. Thank you for your attention.